and I'm looking there. Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me here back. I was almost saying home to Helsinki, and it's wonderful to see some snow. I love snow. But yeah, the theme of today is ethics. And yes, I will say film can be in black and white, but life never is in black and white. Life is full of chaos and dilemmas. It is very seldom that we can, in real life, make very simple solutions. They have a big impact. There are a lot of things going on in real life. And this chaos and these dilemmas, it is one of the reasons why I love documentary films. That is simply because it is closer to real life. And of course, these dilemmas are giving us a lot of troubles and a lot of sleepless nights sometimes, and a lot of, dilemmas is not easy. But I will say we should be very happy for them, because that is, for me, the core of documentary. That we have to go in dialogue with the real world and see and try to understand it, instead of just coming with our prejudices about how the world is. So for me, this dialogue between a director's look and on the world, that is what I think is fantastic. But the dilemmas are there, and for me, of course, in real life, if we harm other people, then there is a legal system that comes in, and then there's punishment or police or whatever. And where we are in this world, it is very seldom that the situation around some of those dilemmas is so big that we end in court. So it is very much us filmmakers that have to struggle and find our way to find the right balance between those dilemmas. And even though there is nowadays all kind of letters of concern, I think it is our responsibility to find the right balance. We can't just have these papers and say, but you signed. People don't know what they're signing up for. It is us, the filmmaker, the directors, and also in the final stage of where the things come together in the editing room. We have the responsibility not to harm people that are going to live their life with a film that is become them in a kind of public space. So for me, I have a quite simple rule that is, because there's nothing easier in the world, it is in the editing to make people look like idiots, we can create whatever we want. But I always, when I'm editing, I always are thinking, how will this film affect these people's life when it comes out? And then I have some exceptions, and where I maybe get a little tougher on them, and it is people who are representing power or have a public job where we can go for them, after them. Of course, on the power they represent or the job that they represent, not on their personal issue. There, I think, there I have other, what should I say, limits, and because there we, of course, need also film that are questions the power, and there we can't not just be nice. But ordinary people, they are giving us trust. And there we have to take care of that trust. And I think one of the main thing we can do, it is with spending a lot of time with our characters. Time is essential, both to, in the shooting, in the research, to get to know those people, and to also to understand and see who they are. So we, in the edit and later, can also give a true picture of them, and also know more those balances. And one of the things I always ask my directors about, because often I'm part of developing or before the shoot, if it's directors I have worked with before and so on, I'm always asking the director around their characters, what's in it for them? Why are they agreeing to take part in this film? The filmmakers, of course, they know why hopefully, why they are making the film. But this question about why do they want to be in the film? I think that is essential for the director to have that knowledge, or to navigate in so they understand, okay, this person has a pain, a hidden pain, or a well-known pain have something they think they can be healed by this. Or it is just that somebody is listening to me, you know. And so when I think it is always important to have that in mind. It can also be, oh, I'm a great musician and I'm so cool and I'm so fantastic and now I want to show the whole world how cool and fantastic I am. There it's also important that the director understand their motives to navigate in that space, and especially nowadays, where we are living in a performative age, where all of us are on our mobile phone have a visual narrative of ourselves in social media, but also we are sending photos to one another, so everybody is getting more used to perform. So therefore, I think it's very important for the director to understand what are the motives of the people. Because and that doesn't mean it should be the same. Of course, it should never be the same. We should never make the character's film. We should make our film. But to avoid misunderstanding and also to be, to also have some of the same expectation, what is the film going to be? I think this is a very important question for every director. So, but when we are talking about more where I come in the editing phase, how do I protect or take care of my characters, and at the same time also tell a story, which is a reduction, a simplification of life. And my starting point, it is always my first screening. My virgin view, which I only have once. It is where I can read all those small subtextual things that is so much part of human communication. So at my first screening, I'm really trying to take in all the subtextual. I'm very much focusing on what am I feeling. And I think all of us, we are reading each other when we meet. It's not only what we are seeing, it is, do I like this person, and all those kind of things. So what I do when I look at my characters in the beginning, I will say the closest parallel I can say it is, I am falling in love. And what do we do when we are falling in love? We are taking in a character, or not a character, a human being fully. Everything is interesting. It's not judgmental. So there, I'm trying not to judge at all. It's not, I'm taking them in. How do they move? Oh, like when you're in love. oh, it's so cute when you fart, honey, in this beginning phase. Then it changed by time. But this kind of, so I take them in. So I try to see them as whole human beings. And I'm not thinking at story at all. Because story already have a kind of a moral, a structure where the character have a function and so on. I never do that at my first screening. That we talk about later. So, and there can also be a character in the material where for some reason maybe they are saying all the right things, but there's something in their subtext that I don't like, And that, or not like, or I don't trust him, or he's a fake, or whatever it can be. And there, I think, for me, it's very important that I get conscious of that feeling, because I have to adjust, even that guy, he's an asshole, Maybe I'm right in my feelings. He is an asshole. But I have to be aware, take more care of that character. Because if I just go, if the story kind of in what this guy is doing in the story is an asshole, and also my feeling, if everything goes in the same direction, then he become a cliche of an asshole instead of a human being. So there, I can't just follow my anti-feelings about this person. So I think that is my method. Very much in the first screening, I fall in love with my characters, and then, of course, after the first viewing, then we are starting to structure the film, and there. We are starting to make stories. And there in the editing room, we often have a dilemma. Also in the ethic discussion, because we want to make the best film in the world. That is really touching, is moving, that is, everybody is crying. But on the other hand, we also have to protect our characters. And it should also be a truth, some kind of subjective truth from the director and me. So there you have this dilemma, and what is touching films? It's conflict. So we can push up conflicts, we can push up emotions, all those kind of things, but we all the time have to be aware that this person have to live with this film out in the real world after that, where neighbors, where children, where teachers, where suddenly we have reduced a whole human being's life into 1 hour. That is, I will say, almost a violation for everybody. How can you reduce a human to so short time? And of course, I will say our whole industry and the financing, it is so much based on storyline, pitching. So of course, we have the producers, we have the finances on our neck. We should have the most powerful film as possible, because then there's more viewers on television. But there, we in the editing room, we have to live in this, what should I say, double world, where we are both making a film, but we are also have to protect the people that have given us their trust. I think it is to my experience, I will say that in the documentary world, almost all the film directors I have worked with are very aware of this. They have spent a lot of time with their characters. They have really engaged in that. They have given something of themselves to create that trust that make people open up and tell something about themselves. So, to my experience, I will say I have had very few cases of where the characters didn't feel okay with the film. What I always do, or we do, if it's possible, it is, of course, show the film to the characters, or now they're not characters because they come in as real people. And there I experience often that if the people have something that they are unsatisfied with or have questions to, it is seldom related to them. It is they are nervous what a girlfriend would say, or, something that is around. And if we take the discussion and so on, I think there's always very simple and a solution, and often they don't make an issue out of it. And for me, that is also a sign that my directors had taken care in the shooting. And we, in the edit, had taken care and see our characters as real human beings, as ourselves, with our good sides and bad sides. So I think that is the moral of this little story. Take care, and maybe take care, be aware, and maybe it's not that difficult. Again, because everything is about human relationship. And if we are clear about our roles and we know what we are doing and care and communicate, then to my experience, it seldom go totally wrong. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for this presentation. And I have to. You were talking about the pleasant, the good characters in this speech, right?
What?
The good characters, the kind of nice people. But also you have an experience of another case where the character is unsympathetic in the act of killing, which is about the horrors of Indochina. What is the moral dilemma there, or the ethical dilemma? What how challenging is that?
Yeah, but in a way, I have to do the same. I have to enter these mass murders and see them as human beings, and not just as morally mass murders. You know, these guys are disgusting, they are awful, and so on. I have to take them in and say, they are human beings as me. And that is, of course, also horrifying. The first screening of the material of the act of killing, it was a living nightmare to be in that space and accept he is a human being like me, and that is also what human beings are doing. So in that process, and in fact in the act of killing, what we spent time on was to humanize Anwar. We had more of those grotesque, disgusting scenes, but we are spending, and we had a hell of a lot of material, and it was very hard to get it down. Yeah. So we were spending, 2.5 minutes of showing Anwar, our main character. He's a vain person. He is changing sunglasses, So we were trying in all perspective, all ways, to make him as human as possible. But it's interesting because there's a little anecdote to that film, because when we were almost done with the editing, then Joshua had, I think, been filming over 5 years with Anwar. And of course, he had made a friendship. Else, Anwar would have smelled it. Then he would never have given his trust. So, of course, Josh was betraying him. He was betraying, had played on the wrong flag, so to speak. Yeah. So with the producer, it was mainly Josh and Signe, then they wanted to show Anwar the film before it was released. So there were all kinds of plans that going to, I think it was Thailand, then he could be flew in from Indonesia to screen. And of course, Josh was scared to hell. You know, because what would, here you have built up a relationship, you have betrayed him, blah, 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 and so on. And so we had a lot of discussion and, but he will not do anything and we have a backup, you know, we find a strong guy and all those kind of things. But in that thing, then they found a psychologist who was used to work with people that had different traumas and so on. And she came up with, and just had a meeting with her. And she was saying, but are you doing this screening for Anwar or for you?
Exactly.
And then what she said, you will feel like a good human being because you have done it, but you will put Anwar in a total conflict instead of you are not showing him anything. Then in Anwar's environment, where the power structures haven't changed since the genocide, where he's a hero that killed all the communists, there he can be allowed to say, if I meet Joshua, I will kill him, that, and all that. So he could be more protected instead of Anwar suddenly should be twisted between a kind of friendship and his environment.
Anwar is the killer in this film.
Anwar is the main character, the killer.
Okay.
And so that was the final decision. And later, Anwar called Josh once in a while because it was, when he was with his gang and with his, then, I killed that American idiot. And then, but so it was, again, not just black and white.
Yeah. In many of the films that you talk about, you kind of you give the final say to the audience. They have to judge the film.
Yeah.
And can that sometimes be the absolution for yourself, that you kind of move the, if a film is made up out of some kind of guilt or shame, like in some cases, or velvollisuus, for duty, then is that kind of transferring your own responsibilities to the audience and relieving yourself as a filmmaker of them, if you get what I mean? It's kind of a confession.
Yeah, but I think, of course, even though that act of killing raised some ethical discussion because we made that very controversial choice of taking out the good of the film.
Yeah.
Which in all storytelling there is an axis between good and evil. It is the fundamental from fairy tales to religious and so on. And when you take away the good, then it's of course a total provocation because the audience have to sit and be in such evil universe, and or either you can kind of just say it has nothing to do with me, they are just monsters, but what we wanted was also to see the mechanism behind the evil, the storytelling, how we human beings are making stories about our life and so on. But to that question, is it a kind of hiding? Of course, everybody knows that neither Josh and me are saying, just think this is fantastic, that you have killed 1 million people. Of course not.
Yeah.
I would say, so of course you need a direction, but and you need, as a filmmaker, to have political and moral.
Move that.
Here.
No, this.
Of course, we have to have stands, political, morally, towards the world. Yeah. But if we get too heavy-handed, it's just propaganda. Then you can agree or disagree.
No, actually, what I mean is this: when making a film, you kind of you do it because you have to do it. You have to tell that particular story. But when you do that, then you kind of have done your part, your share of that process, and then you move the feelings that you have gone through to the audience, and kind of relieve yourself from that burden of whatever the film was about. Does that resonate at all? Can that happen? That you kind of you're a better person after having done the film.
If I'm a better person.
Or did that process of, for instance, the act of killing, did that change you as a person? And having done that, did you feel that you've done something good? I mean, if you donate money, then that's kind of a thing that relieves you from the responsibility for the people you give it to. If it's charity, for instance.
No, but no. I don't think by leaving space for the audience judgment take away any responsibility from me. An author always have the responsibility. So for me, it is. I don't know.
I haven't finished it. Are you relieved when it's finished, when it's done, when the problems are kind of if the problems are solved after the film is finished? Is that kind of do you get somewhere after finishing the film in terms of the issues that you have dealt with? Are they dealt with? Yeah.
Of course, and especially with the act of killing, where it in fact had an effect in the Indonesian society. Suddenly there were raised debates that had been hidden for so many years. So that, of course, I was proud of. That a lot of films, when I was young, I thought that film could change the world. With age, I have become more humble and think, at least we are not making it worse. But here, in fact, with the act of killing, it was a film that changed something. And I'm a political animal, of course. I want to work on film that have an impact, but as a storyteller and a filmmaker, you know, I have to not shout at people. I have to seduce them. Else I should have been a politician. Yeah. You know, I'm an artist where we are communicating in some other layers and some other areas that are not only the words and the arguments. We can communicate also in a, and that is one of the beautiful thing for me about documentary film. It is that we can also give an emotional understanding, where journalism is fantastic, but they have also their limits, where we can fill out some of those holes that journalism, for example, can't fill.
Yeah, that's true, and there's also I think there's a fundamental difference between journalism and documentary filmmaking in terms of responsibility for characters. Because journalistically, if you give or ask for an interview, then it's yours, yeah. the journalist's property, not theirs anymore, and you cannot really change anything that you have done. You said, if I got it right in your speech, that the film is not the character's film; it's our film. Can you elaborate a bit in that? Because when does it become our property as filmmakers? The lives of the characters, or is that what you meant?
Yeah, but I think it is always our property where we are using. It's never the people in the films. It's never their film. Yeah. It is our, and therefore we are the one that have to stand up for it, and they make the choices. It's never the, but of course the difference between, maybe it's a little out of subject, but of course in journalism you have some in the kind of fundament of journalism, you have something called objectivity. And then you can be gonzo journalist and so on, but it's a kind of tradition that you come from, where I think we have in creative documentary obligation to be subjective. It's a director's point of view. It's a subjective truth, and there, I think, where my job is so interesting, it is that I have a vision, the director's vision. I have a material that have its own life, that I read, that most of the time is on the line with the director, but I also see something because that they never have seen, because they have been so focused of getting all kind of things shot, so they don't see maybe some of those beautiful miracles and golden moments of life, which maybe wasn't directly on the narrative line, but just here. And then suddenly, wow, this is a beautiful moment. So I think that is so beautiful. And then so it's a kind of triangle that we are working in, material, vision, and I also feel that somehow, as an editor, of course, I'm also the first audience. Yes. So I also feel an obligation in communicating with an audience, and I have some experience in that, and I'm not so confused of the reality and all the things that happened also when the camera wasn't on as a director.
Great obligations, obligation to subjectivity and obligation to communication. Thank you. And in this book, Order in Chaos, which was published last fall.
It was launched at ITFA in November.
Yeah, which can be purchased from the website titled Order in Chaos, and which will be in Helsinki. You will be presenting this book in
I will not be presenting because of the COVID, but I will be in Rosebud Thursday, and I will sign some books.
What time Thursday?
It will be between 1 and 3.
Okay, you should all go and get this book because it's fantastic and it's an essential book for everybody dealing with these issues in film. Thank you very much, Niels.
Thank you.
And nyt meillä on ruokatauko, tunnin lounas melkein, ja 13.30 jatkuu Iiris Härmän kanssa. Kiitoksia.